Well, Samantha, there is a lot to talk about. You have been in the headlines, your story, and it's a pretty wild story. You're a junior pre-med student at the University of Oklahoma, and you were recently failed on an assignment. And this failure, this zero, it wasn't just a failure, you were given a zero on the assignment. It's made headlines all over the country. First and foremost, what was the assignment at the center of this story?
The assignment was to give our opinion and our reaction to an article about gender stereotypes and gender norms. And so that's what I did. We've been having these, they're called reaction papers. We've had them all semester. I've gotten 100 on every reaction paper I've written. So I didn't think much of it. I just gave my opinion on it, and they're just short essays. So we've never been required to use any kind of evidence, not empirical evidence, not any evidence at all, just our opinion.
So these are opinion pieces, essentially reactions. And, this was about gender, and you're a Christian. And so you gave your viewpoint. Now, the article that you were responding to, what was it essentially saying? Let's start there, and then we'll get into your response.
Yeah, it was saying a lot about just gender stereotypes and about how kids are pressured to fit into gender norms and to fit into those stereotypes and to live by those stereotypes. So that was kind of what the article was centered around.
So, okay, so you responded to this. Now, when you were writing your response, and I've read parts of it, very strong Christian response to this article, did any part of you think, oh boy, I might get pushback for this? Oh no, was there, or did you just kind of say, look, I'm going to go with the flow. I know there might be pushback, or were you kind of like, I'm just going to respond like I do every time, and you didn't think twice? What was sort of your reaction as you were doing it?
I didn't think twice at all. I was just like, I felt more passionate about this topic than the other topics that we'd been given to write about previous to this. So that was really the only difference. I just thought of it as another assignment. I was like, well, I'll just give my opinion. This is exactly what I think. And I wasn't expecting any pushback at all from the instructor, because I didn't know that the instructor was transgender. I had no idea. I didn't know that my writing was going to personally offend him. Did not see any of that coming, and I definitely didn't see the zero coming.
So you got a 0 out of 25. So when you received your grade after getting 100, apparently on every other one, what were you like? What was your initial reaction to that?
I was shocked. I was like, I have no idea how I could get a 0 on an assignment. A 0 on an assignment is either not doing it or turning in a blank piece of paper or something like that. So I was shocked. And then I was even more shocked when I read the instructor's comments on it and why I received a 0. That was even crazier to me.
Well, let's talk about that. What were those comments? What was the explanation?
Yeah, the explanation was that I needed empirical evidence, but we've never been required to use empirical evidence in that class, or any evidence. And that was a big part of it. But the other big part of the comments were saying that my writing was offensive and that I needed more empathy in my work, and that I can't use personal ideology to defend my opinion. So the instructor was kind of trying to say that if I'm going to have an opinion that goes against the findings of every medical field in the United States, that I would need evidence to back that opinion. So.
Okay, so once you got the grade, did you go to this, TA, to this instructor? And if so, what was that like?
Yeah, I emailed the instructor right when I received that score, and I sent screenshots of the syllabus and of the assignment instructions. And I said, it doesn't say anywhere that I need any evidence for this assignment. And I asked that he would reconsider my grade. And he replied and said, no, I won't reconsider your grade. This is the grade you deserve. And he said that the other TA was in agreement with him that that was the grade I deserved.
So this is interesting, because at that point, you had a couple of options. You could have said, okay, I'm going to cower and stay silent, which a lot of people do because they don't want to upset people or land themselves in the headlines or you could stand up, and you chose to stand up and push back. Now, internally you went above the head of that TA, right? So talk about once you realized the grade was not going to change. I assume you're getting hundreds, you care about your grade, you're pre-med, you don't want to have that zero. So what did you do next?
Yeah, so next I went to the department head of psychology, the dean, the president of OU, and then outside sources as well that weren't involved with the university. And I found out what the process was to, they explained the formal grade appeal process and told me how to do that. So that was the next step with that. And then I also emailed the equity office at OU, and they helped me fill out a discrimination report for religious discrimination. And so that was what I did next. And that's kind of what I heard back from the university about that.
So in your perspective, how did the university handle this? If you could give, because I know obviously I've seen some back and forth on that. Did you feel like it was handled well? Where do things currently stand with the TA? Take us through some of those details, and then I want to get into some other elements of just your faith and your decision to stand up, because I do think it's pretty bold on an issue like this. But talk about what I first asked you there.
Yeah. So I at first, the university didn't say anything about, they didn't really say much about the situation. The only sort of kind of apology that I received was from one of the deans that I contacted, and his response was that he is sorry that I feel my work was evaluated unfairly. But to me, it was a lot more than that. It wasn't just not evaluated fairly. It was calling my opinion offensive. And so that's what I heard back from them. That was as close as I got to an apology from the university. And so then I did hear back about the grade appeal, and they said that assignment just won't count towards my final grade. So they just basically took that assignment out of my grade altogether. And then they also said from there that my assignments in that class won't be graded by that instructor anymore. And then that was, I forgot when I got that email about that. But then a couple days later is when they came out with a statement on X saying that they take these cases very seriously, and they don't stand for religious discrimination and things like that, and that they've been doing everything they can to handle this situation well, and that they put the instructor on administrative leave. But I was surprised to hear all of that because they hadn't said anything to me about it. They didn't contact me. I never heard from the president of OU, no apology or anything. And it didn't seem to me like they took it very seriously. It just seemed like they just told me what processes to go through to get my grade, to get that grade appealed. And they just kind of left it at that. So I was honestly shocked to see how much they claimed to care about it on social media. And I was also shocked to see that they put the TA on administrative leave.
So there have been quite a number of developments, with all of that. And okay, but let's talk about your decision to speak out. You've done a lot of media. The New York Times has covered this. Fox News has covered this. We're covering this at CBN News. What has it been like in terms of the response? Are you getting a lot of support? Is there a lot of reaction coming your way? Just take us there first.
Yeah, definitely a lot of reaction coming my way. A lot more than I expected. And I've gotten a lot of messages from students that go to OU saying that they're experiencing similar things in their classes, either right now or in the past. And so it was encouraging for me to see that and those kind of responses, because it's encouraging those students to be bold in their opinions and in their faith, and be bold in their classes and kind of create some pushback. So it definitely seems like an institutional problem at OU, and not just one instructor that was doing this. It sounds to me, based off of the messages I've been getting, that it sounds like this is a recurring problem. So I've gotten a lot of those messages, obviously some not as kind messages, but I just tried not to pay too much attention to those.
Yeah, I mean, are people around you treating you well? Because you're taking what shouldn't have to be a bold stand, but yet as a Christian, speaking out on a college campus and a secular college campus, this can be a difficult thing to take Christian viewpoints and just state them. People don't always want to hear it. And especially when it becomes a big news story, it adds another layer to that. So have the people around you been pretty kind there on campus?
Yes, I would say especially my friends and my support system. They've been really kind and supportive about it. I don't know what other students think about it, but our TPUSA chapter has been really supportive, and the president of our chapter has been really supportive and there for me throughout all of this. So that's been really helpful. But just as you said, I didn't think I was doing something courageous when I was writing the essay. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think that was at first I was getting messages like, oh, you're so brave and so courageous for writing your essay about that, and I was like, wait, I didn't know that was me being brave or courageous at the time. I thought I was just giving my opinion. So yeah.
So, okay. So what would you say? There are a lot of other people who are young people, especially, but honestly, people across the board who they have the same viewpoint that you do, or they have a viewpoint that maybe is conservative or Christian or counter the place they are, and they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to say something, even though you didn't realize you were doing something courageous. You have decided once you did realize that to speak out, right? Which is bold, and to do these interviews. What would you say to those young people, and again, even older people who are really silencing themselves out of fear? What would your message be to them?
Yeah, I love that question. I would say it's so important to be bold in your faith. It's always worth it to stand up for Jesus, and I just think that you know Christianity is it's hard to be bold in because it's not popular in our culture to be Christian and truly live your life according to the Bible and to hold those beliefs. But the Bible also says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so it's pretty clearly stated in the Bible, we will be hated for our beliefs and for saying that we're Christians. And so I just want to encourage people to stand up for your beliefs and don't back down. I know it can definitely be scary. I'm learning that now for sure. That it can be scary or intimidating to stand up for what you believe in, but it's so worth it. And even if we don't see that reward here on earth, we will in heaven.
Well, I am so grateful that you have taken the time, that you've joined us, and that you're continuing to speak out. I assume that, you wouldn't change things if you could, even though knowing everything you know now, you would do the same thing, right? I mean, I would assume that's true.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And if anything develops in the story, please come back and speak with us more. Again, appreciate your time today.
Thank you.